Hi YouTube, this is a quick takeaway video from the successful data recovery job on iPhone 7 Plus. I just did, so I want to share a couple things with you, and I'm going to add my video of the actual removal, reball, and reinstalling of the processor back on the board, which did not, there was the first attempt of installing back that did not work well. I'm gonna explain that a little bit, and but it's back in place and everything is good. So a couple of things. This iPhone 7 Plus came to me with no power, so it was taking about 0.4 amps, 0.4 and something amps from the wall. Amp meter was shown that and was not turning on. So the DC power supply was straight to the motherboard was taking, so basically it was zero, but when you press the power button it was taking 0.018 amps, which is 18 milliamps from the DC power supply. So that told me that the CPU is not running on this board. So first thing first, I pulled the shield from the CPU, and I want to make sure all the coils are fine there. So I'm gonna show you under the microscope what I'm talking about here. Okay, so these are the coils. You want to make sure, if we have the same issue. Main coil would be this one. You want to make sure this coil is sitting properly, it's not cracked and it's not loose. So it was fine in my case, and that was measuring 1.25 volt, I believe, on that rail. Also, I checked all the coils right here, and when I was cleaning the CPU, cleaning the glue from the CPU, I kind of mentioned that these coils were moving on this side. So I ended up replacing them all just to be sure, it's not the coil problem. So those coils replaced, same thing, nothing changed. And also what I mentioned too, when I removed the shield, the iPhone actually turned on. And it worked, for a couple minutes, and it shut off. So that told me there is some kind of a loose connection somewhere. So that's why, I was messing with the coils, pressing on coils and stuff. Before I went, I wanted, the Reball or a CPU swap is like kind of last resort. I try to figure out, what's the problem before I do that. Before I do the CPU, because that CPU can always go wrong, but it did not, thankfully. It was all good. So a couple takeaway, the rest of the video is going to be my reballing. Couple takeaways here is a couple pads, like 4 pads, were missing when I removed the CPU. 4 pads were missing from the CPU, and thankfully those four pads were ground. So you want to make sure, if that happens, you want to make sure before you clean them with the soldering iron, before you clean the CPU soldering iron, you want to make sure to cover those pads with the ground pads, because there's lots of ground pads. You don't have to reconstruct those ground pads, but you want to make sure to cover those ground pads with the UV mask or conformal coating, because what can happen is when you clean the CPU with the solder, you can scratch the lines under that broken pad, basically. So on second layer, you can scratch those contacts, and you can actually bridge the ground to any lines that goes on the second layer under the top layer, and that's going to be a problem. So you want to make sure to cover those pads with the conformal coating. Also, there are the 4 elements there on the CPU. 2 elements got loose. When I removed the CPU, you don't really have to put them back. You can just, same thing, you can just cover those pads with the conformal coating. I just I just put them back on. And also another thing is, to be 100% safe, put a little bit of conformal coating around those, if they're still in place, around those 4 elements there. I'm not sure, it's probably, I don't want to tell what it is, because I don't really know what those elements are, but you want to put that conformal coating around those elements, because the solder does not stick to the pads there, you know, does not tray, you know, it's so you don't have to remove that, you know, when you reball in it. So it just makes life a lot easier, you know, if you do that, because it takes a little bit but saves you a lot of time, you know, after you do a reball. And also another thing, what happened in my video there, you're gonna see that the CPU shifted one row, and the reason that happened is because I put too much flux on the board. So basically, and it shifted one row because it was too much flux, and it just kind of just run with the flux, you know, to the point of less resistance, which is here. Basically, it's just nothing here was kind of stopping it. So I had to remove the CPU and redo the whole thing again. And that's basically the main takeaways from this job. And what else? Maybe I missed something. Another thing is, let me switch back. I'm gonna show you the actual. As you can see, this turned out pretty nicely. Okay, so it's pretty beautiful. And let me switch back here. You know, this device is really nice for reballing CPUs, which is Mijink Z21 Pro. I like this a lot. What else? You know, also when you do reball your CPUs, you want to make sure to dry the paste. I use this Mechanic XG50 paste, 183 Celsius temperature. So you want to make sure to dry it up before you apply it. You know, for the reball, because you want to make sure you put it on the paper towel. Put it on the paper towel and kind of right here, kind of wrap it around and squeeze all the leftover, all the extra flux from it, because it's a lot easier to reball the CPU with the dry paste. So that's about all the takeaways, and let me start it up for you guys so you can see that this went smoothly. Oops. Okay. Make sure everything is off. So let me connect the screen. Okay. .1 volt. Pressing kind of the power button thing. Okay, we have Apple logo. So I'm gonna wait for it to boot up completely so you can see the pin code that it's asking for. So I'm just trying to come up with something else. Also, I had to rebuild one pad was missing. 1.8 volt pad was missing actually from the board. So I was just thinking maybe that was the original problem there, because you know, I'm not exactly sure how it got out, you know, how it got missing. But basically I checked that line on the CPU. I compared, because there was like two pads on the CPU, one you know, next to each other, and one of those were missing. Okay, and I checked those pads on the CPU, so, and they were not connected on CPU, so they had to be, you know, they had to be rebuilt on the actual motherboard. So I did that, and as you can see, this is a successful story here. Okay, so let me power it off. And you guys, if you need any data recovery from your iPhone, you can hit me up at applebytech.com. I will be glad to help you with that or do it for you. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and have a lovely day. Bye.